The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday, March 9th, second show today. I hope you all caught the interview with Andrew Fox earlier today. I think Andrew is one of the smartest analysts out there. I don't always agree with him, and certainly if we got into the morality of war and stuff like that, we would disagree, but he is much better at assessing kind of public reaction to stuff reaction to stuff. So civilian casualties and stuff, he might agree with me ultimately, but he would say not worth it given how the world responds to it. Anyway, it was a good interview, I think. I don't know what you guys thought. A lot of you were there. So let me know what you thought. If you want more guests like that, happy to try to find them. And check it out. Check it out. Earlier today, a 1-hour interview with Andrew Fox. He was doing 4 interviews in a row, so I could only get him for an hour because he was so in demand. He is one of the more in demand, I think, commentators and one of the better educated commentators out there about the war. All right. Ian says he seems to be less hopeful about the war outcome than you are. Yeah, I think that's right. I think, as I've said before, I think most military experts are less hopeful than me about the war's outcome. We'll see who's right and who's wrong. I also acknowledge the fact that Trump, as we'll see, we'll talk about, could change his mind on a dime, and my hopes are irrelevant. But yes, I think he is less hopeful in terms of the ability of the Iranian people to rise up, even with all this, and do regime change. That's basically his fear. I think he's also hesitant about the uranium and some other issues. But yes, he's good. Somebody says, not as good as Dave Smith. That's right. I mean, he just doesn't have the credentials, the experience, the deep knowledge, of well-traveled Dave Smith, who knows the Middle East like the back of his hand because he spent decades studying it carefully. So yes, it's hard to compete. It's hard to compete. All right. We're going to talk about the new Supreme Leader, who he is, what he is, why he is, and we'll talk about, give you an update on how the war is going, from my perspective at least, and then we can talk about some domestic stuff, some taxes, Washington State, housing, rents in Austin, and a final, just the video was too good not to show you. I thought, okay, I've shown you Tucker videos yesterday. That was enough. This one was just too good not to show you. So I fear, and it is real fear. I really do worry about this. That Tucker is going to produce so many good videos like this that I will have to show you a Tucker video every day, and that would be horrible because that would just be terrible. So I'm hoping Tucker, I don't know, either becomes less popular or becomes more sane. But his insane videos are so good, you can't not show them. Can't not show them. Anyway, all good. Somebody says Washington State or welfare state. I think both. Washington State is a welfare state. No? Anyway, let's start with our new supreme leader of Iran, the son of the previous supreme leader. So we've gone from one supreme leader to another supreme leader. So when his father was chosen as supreme leader of Iran. Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, Hussein Ali Khamenei. No, not Hussein Ali Khamenei. What is it? Ali Khamenei. His father was not a well-regarded, big-time religious scholar. The supreme leader of Iran is supposed to be like a super scholar. He's supposed to be extremely knowledgeable about Islam and about the Shiite religion. He's supposed to be an Ayatollah and a top one at that. And when his father was appointed, he came up pretty short on that. He was a jurist, one grade below Ayatollah. He was actually placed into position as supreme leader above a guy named Hussein Ali Montazeri, who was the grand Ayatollah, whose scholarly chops eclipsed Khamenei's, but he was not popular among the elites, among the clergy of Iran. I mean, very similar to how popes get elevated. You don't always get the most serious pope elevated. It's a political thing. Anyway, Mujtaba, who is the son of Ali Khamenei, Mujtaba Khamenei, is even less of a scholar than his father. He is not well known as a religious teacher. He's not well known as somebody who has a wide following of followers who are looking for guidance and looking for inspiration in the Quran. Almost, people didn't refer to his father Ali Khamenei in matter of Islamic law, and Mujtaba is even has less religious clout than his father did. But what he does have is secular clout. Mujtaba has a lot of connections, strong connections with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. He has been running his father's affairs, and the link to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard is really the linchpin of the regime. They're what to hold the regime together. They provide the guns, but also they are committed ideologues. They are, taught religion and the dogma of Shiite Islam as much as they are taught about military, about arms. They are religious fanatics. They are committed jihadists. Now they also have secular sides. They all have large estates outside of Iran, a lot of money in Canada, in the UK, and other places, which they funneled over the years. We'll talk about Mujtaba's assets in a minute. But for the last 20 years or so, Mujtaba has been running his father's office. And as the previous Ayatollah, as the previous supreme leader was getting older and older, Mujtaba became more and more powerful, primarily because of his connections with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Indeed, his appointment as supreme leader seems to be a huge victory for the Guard. He beat out two other candidates, both of whom represent a more moderate view of Iran and a more moderate view of Shiite Islam, and are less, therefore, connected with the Revolutionary Guard. So to elevate him, it really means that the more extreme elements, that the more militant elements, that the more anti-Western elements within Iran are in power and are emboldened. And in spite of killing so many of the leadership of the Islamic Republic, of Iran, the militant, the real jihadists are in control, and they're the ones who've appointed this guy, who is not a compromiser, who has no interest in compromising. Again, the other candidates, Ayatollah Rafi, who has more religious credentials, but he's an academic administrator, and wouldn't have had any clout with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. One of the others was known as a moderate. No way would he have had. He was actually, the other candidate was Khomeini, that is the first supreme leader's grandson, but he's considered a moderate, so he would have been out. So anyway, this is the guy they've appointed. Now, what's interesting about this appointment is that, and they have acknowledged this, that he was injured in the attack against his father. That is, on the first day of the bombings, the Israelis killed his father, but they also killed his mother, his wife, and one of his children. So they've killed basically his entire family. He was injured. Some rumors have it that he's lost a leg. Other rumors, and these are all rumors, there's a ton of rumors online. There's like one account that is constantly declaring people assassinated. But it's all made up. No evidence. But I guess he gets followers just by declaring people assassinated, and everybody thinks, oh, he's got inside information, and they follow him. But it all turns out to be false. Anyway, by some accounts, he's lost his leg and might even be unconscious right now and not even know he's the supreme leader of Iran. And that basically all this is a figurehead for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, primarily the guy running things on a day-to-day basis right now is this guy called Ali Laranjani, who's been running it since Khamenei was killed on the first day. Ali Laranjani has been running things and has been the effective ruler of Iran. Israeli television has a list now of 6 people that are at the top of the assassination list for the Israeli for the Israeli Air Force attacking Tehran and the rest of Iran. At the top of the list is the new supreme leader, Khamenei. Who knows where he is? He's probably in a bunker somewhere deep. But Israel can get to you in deep bunkers. The question is which one? Where is he in Tehran? Is he outside of Tehran? Again, if he was injured in the attack the first day, he's probably in a hospital somewhere in Tehran. Maybe that's why the Israelis haven't taken him out, because they're not going to bomb a hospital at this point. Second name on the list is Ali Laranjani, the guy running things on a day-to-day basis. The third one is Gholam Hossein Mossadegh, something like that, who is the head of the Supreme Court. Then you've got 3 others, all related to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. These are people all on the list for elimination by the Israelis, and if I suspect that if the war goes on long enough in Iran, these people will indeed be eliminated. So it's going to be interesting, but it's interesting that there's a list out. Let's see. No, I wasn't looking for that. All right. Mujtaba is a militant. He is connected to the Revolutionary Guard. He was their candidate. He is not a compromiser. He's not a deal maker. He is out there. He is very dedicated to the nuclear program, not willing to give it up. But on the other hand, can run the country pretty quickly because he's been running his father's office for 20 years. So he knows all the ins and outs. He's connected. He knows everybody. He's the guy. He is the guy. Now, again, we'll see how long he lasts. We'll see if he's even, some people even saying he's dead already. And this is just they're buying time without letting, but I doubt that's true. All right. One of the things that are upsetting people is the fact that this is a dynastic, he's the son of the previous supreme leader. One of the big complaints about the Shah was it was a kingdom and dynastic and hereditary. And, Khomeini, who founded, of course, the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khomeini, declared that Iran will not be a monarchy and there will not be father-to-son succession. And at least there's some evidence to suggest that Khamenei, the father, the one who was killed the other day, did not want his son to take the position because of this perception of it's like a monarchy and we should be different than the Shahs. We should not be transferring power from father to son. So there might be a lot of resistance within Iran over the fact that there's the succession is hereditary, and people are going to object to that and clearly not like it. Other than that, we will see the Assembly of Experts, it turned out, met by Zoom, basically, met electronically. They did not meet in person. When Israel bombed their building, it landed up being empty. They weren't there. So they for security reasons, voted not in person, which is not clear that that's kosher. Not clear that anybody really not clear that anybody really cares. Anyway, this basically solidifies Laranjani and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard as central to this. They're the ones in control of Iran. They're the ones who will decide what happens from here on. It is worth noting that Khamenei, the son, controls quite a few assets overseas through a variety of different shell companies in order to elude the sanctions. His father, and many people within the Iranian regime were sanctioned by Western countries and are not allowed to own financial assets outside. But it turns out that he has property, for example, in Great Britain, in London, and in the area with well over 100 million pounds. Some big houses, several houses in London. He owns, he owns a bunch of hotels in mainland Europe. So has a lot of assets, hundreds of millions of dollars outside Iran, all over Europe. Much of the Iranian elite, much of what's left of the Iranian elite after, the Israelis have basically destroyed so much of it. But many of them have assets overseas. As I've said, a favorite location is Canada, but they also have quite a lot of assets in Europe, real estate, but also investment assets. Again, they use shell companies. There's a good story in Bloomberg how the son of Iran's supreme leader built a global property empire about kind of shell companies and the investors he's used in order to build this financial enterprise. So in spite of being this religious fanatic, he's prepared himself an escape route with money overseas. There's no other reason to have all this other than as an escape route for when the day comes. Now remember, this is at the same time as Iran is dirt poor, the Iranian people are impoverished, things are being really, really bad economically in Iran. At the same time, Iranian elites are funneling money out of Iran. All right, what else is going on vis-a-vis the Iranian war? Israel continues to bomb targets in Tehran and in other cities in Iran, primarily regime targets. You remember I told you they bombed the big oil storage facility in Tehran, when it turns out the Americans were very unhappy. The Trump administration was not happy with the Israelis. It was the first time there was a real conflict between Israel and the United States. The U.S. does not want to do anything that causes pain to the Iranian people. Exact opposite of what I suggested yesterday or the day before yesterday, whenever it was. They do not want to cause any pain to the Iranian peoples. They do not want to target oil facilities. They have no interest in blowing up oil. They have no interest in taking out power plants or taking out desalination plants or water facilities or anything like that. So the Trump administration supposedly chided the Israelis. The Israelis claim that they got approval from the administration to attack the oil depot, but the Americans are saying it was far more extensive than they expected. So that was a real conflict between the Israelis and the Americans, and it gives you a little sense of where the war is heading. The war is heading towards continued attacks on military infrastructure, on the military, on maybe decapitation leaders, but primary focus is going to be on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. The United States has taken out basically the entire Navy. I think they're up to 41 boats, which is half the Navy, but most of the significant naval assets, the bigger boats, the drone carriers, ships like that. So they've taken out the Navy, which is one of Trump's promises. Whether they've actually significantly reduced the inventory of missiles in Iran is hard to tell. Again, many of those missiles are deep, 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 deep inside mountains. They might have blocked the entrances, but those entrances can be redug. So it's not clear how much they've reduced the real inventory and how much it could be reasserted. And then, of course, the third one is a biggie. To what extent has the United States really destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities? That was the number one goal of this whole project. And I don't know that they know or have found where the uranium is. There's no clear that they have destroyed it. Again, it might be buried underground, but anything buried underground can be retrieved over time. So what exactly have they done? Have they actually achieved it? Right? Have they actually achieved it? So have they actually gotten any of those? The nuclear thing, now we talked about, I think yesterday, the idea of special forces going on. Andrew Fox said he was dubious about that. It would be a very tricky operation to actually engage in. That might be true. I mean, he knows more about the military aspect of it probably than I do. I don't see any other option. The other option is a negotiated settlement over the nuclear stuff. That is unlikely. Again, the Iranians are not going to give up the nuclear material. They're not going to give up their nuclear ambitions. So none of the Trump administration's goals for this war have yet been achieved. The Iranian military, is reduced dramatically. Missile launches, most of them are gone, but missile launches are easy to rebuild. So it would be a tragedy, a real tragedy, if all of this, and at the end of it, Iran doesn't have a navy, but they dig out the missiles that they have. They rebuild launches, which you can just stick on the back of a truck, and they at some point dig out the nuclear material. And, it might take them years to get back to where they were. But, the United States has just spent billions and billions and billions of dollars and prestige and effort and the lives of, 7 or 8 Americans. For what? If they're going to walk away from this. Now, Trump keeps changing his mind about this. So he did say today that he thinks that the current state of Iran's armed forces is such that he could declare victory and end this now. And then he says, he could go further. And then he said, we're going to go further. That he said, later in the evening. God, Tommy, go away. You're just polluting my stream with lies. So ignore Tommy. He's just lying. He has no intel. He has no knowledge. He's just making stuff up. Buzz, the constant optimist, the always optimist, but a little delusional in my view. Even if the war ends now, the world is much better and safer place. Who knows? It might lead to peace in the Middle East. Maybe. But it's safer, yes. But for how long? I mean, this is the thing. Israel has always been very, very good at half measures. And this is an opportunity in Iran to really finish the job, to really do it right. It needs time. It needs weeks. You don't do it in 10 days. It needs time. But the idea that to do all this for another half measure, I mean, Israel did a half measure in June, another half measure now, another half measure when? I mean, it's just, you know, when do you have to go back? It's so frustrating that this is the attitude of another half measure and another half measure. Trump did say earlier today that the war would be over soon, that, you know, winning and it's going to be over soon. As soon as he said it, stock prices started going up. Oil prices came down dramatically. I think 13% decline in oil prices, which is the largest single-day decline ever, I think, in oil prices. They were heading way above 100, and now they were, last I looked, it was like at 83. I'm not sure where it is now. But just all he had to say was, I think, you know, maybe this will end soon. And, you know, financial markets just go nuts. The NASDAQ closed 1.38% higher. The Dow was up 0.5%. The Russell was up more than 1%. Crude oil was down below 90. Gold landed up, but gold has been down from its peak. Silver's down. So yeah, I mean, interesting. That one statement is if Trump doesn't change his mind every 5 minutes, as if you can make anything significant out of it, and if anything is meaningful from what Trump says. Very, very, very little is. All right, a few other things about the war. So we talked about the Strait of Hormuz. We talked about it on Saturday a lot. We talked about it on Sunday. It turns out that with the Iranian Navy now pretty much obliterated, a lot of oil tankers have begun crossing the Straits of Hormuz. They turn the transponders off, or they are setting their transponders to Chinese ship. And they're sneaking by. So now we're not anywhere near the volumes that it was before the war, but oil is getting through the Hormuz Straits, and I think that might be more of the reason why oil prices went down a lot today. There's some evidence to suggest that ships are getting by, ships are getting across. Supposedly the French are coming to the rescue. France is sending an aircraft carrier. And, you know, it's the kind of ships that go with an aircraft carrier to the Arabian Sea with intent to escort ships out of the Persian Gulf. So it'll be through the Straits of Hormuz. So maybe there's an international force being assembled to try to get the ships out of there. Maybe they're finding ways to get out without that, right? Again, turning off their transponders and sneaking by. Iran doesn't have a lot, right? One of the things you need in order to, for example, shoot missiles at ships is you need a radar to be able to detect where those ships are. A lot of those radars have probably been taken out on the coast. The straits are fairly wide, and of course, the border with Iran is long along the Persian Gulf. So they've got lots of opportunities to shoot at the ships, but maybe with transponders off and with very little radar help, maybe they're not making they're not as successful as closing the straits as they might have expected, and the consequence of that is oil prices down significantly. I mean, significantly. So it could very well be that is driving prices of oil down, and therefore stocks up, much more than anything Trump might or might not have said. The press is citing what Trump said. I suspect it's more information coming in from shipping companies that the oil is getting through. Again, not in the quantities needed, but in some quantity. Some quantity. Better than nothing. All right, let's see. What else do we want to... tonight, actually, the residents of Tehran are saying that the pounding, the explosions happening right now in Tehran are unlike anything they've heard so far. So they're claiming, at least some are claiming, that the Israelis and the Americans are pounding places, at least concentrating that pounding in Tehran and at least one other city that I've seen, and maybe using more ammunition, maybe using more planes, maybe more bombs. I don't know, but it sounds like this is, and maybe this is Trump's attempt to speed up the war, to speed it up and get it over with. But we will see. We will see. It could be speeding up the pace to get this war over with quickly. It'll be interesting what the targets they're hitting and what they actually said. This is Trump today, again talking about the sinking of the Iranian naval ships. This is classic Trump. He said to I guess his generals, he says, "Why didn't we just capture the ships? We could have used the ships. Why did we sink them?" And then supposedly the general said to him, "It's more fun to sink them." I said, they like sinking them better. He's surprised in front of the audience. Oh, my generals, they like sinking boats better than capturing them and taking them. The guy's a nut. What can I say? Let's see. According to analysts, it looks like what they're going to do with the uranium is they're going to leave the uranium for the very end. So if they can make a deal with the Iranians, that'll be part of the deal. And if they don't get a deal with the Iranians, then that's when they'll use special forces or special bombs or special something. But they're not gonna do it early in the mission. This is the last thing they will do, not the first thing they will do. So interesting. It makes sense to me that they would do it that way. They would like to get the uranium through a deal. It's cleaner, simpler. But we will see. Again, no more indications about whether the U.S. is going to put boots on the ground to take that island that has all the Iranians' oil facilities and to use that as leverage. Not clear. But you're not clear if that's going to happen. No indications that they're moving forward. Some rumors yesterday about it, but nothing more than that. And then the other thing is, again, rumors that CIA and the Mossad are working on the ground in Iran to try to spark, to get the Iranians to go back into the streets at some point here. Not quite yet, but at some point get them into the streets. This is what Trump said earlier, that the financial press is all arguing shifted markets. He said, "I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They have no Navy, no communications, and they've got no Air Force." Then he says, "We're very far ahead of the initial 4 to 5 week estimate timeframe for the operation, and that it could be over very soon." Soon, not very soon. So, who knows? Who knows? All right, we talked about that. We've done that. I'm just going through my different points. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I mean, the Iranians, this is a report from Iran, inside Iran. Since last night, Tehran and Karaj have been under heavy fire and smoke. All depots were hit. Today, the attacks were also intense, and the number of cutlets, dead Islamic regime across the country is high. Province by province, city by city, village by village, they are hunting Basij members, IRGC forces, and special units. So that is the Iranians are estimating that this is taking a real toll on the IRGC. As Andrew Fox said, basically communications are dead. The Israeli Americans have hit all the command and control centers. So there's nobody really running the operation. But what happens is that they have basically delegated control to the regional commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So they are shooting weapons at their own discretion. There's no central command and control. There's no central command and control. But you don't need central command and control when all you're doing is just firing stuff. And this is, it's not clear if they wanted to stop them on a dime, they could, because the communications is not there. It would probably take a while to get them to all stop and all at once. All right, let's see. A few other things related to this. You remember the story about the school that was hit, killing 165 students? I think it was the first day of the war. And there was some consensus that it was probably a Tomahawk missile, that it basically missed its target and hit the school instead. Well, people have analyzed the video now very closely and have come to the conclusion that it was not a Tomahawk missile. Based on the actual characteristics of the missile, they've actually slowed down the frame so they can see the missile as it strikes the school. There's video of this. They have come to the conclusion that it's actually a KH-55 land attack cruise missile, which is Iranian. And what they think happened is this is an Iranian cruise missile that, because the United States was jamming GPS, basically kind of took a wrong turn and hit the school. So in spite of the fact that everybody's blaming the United States for this, we're now back to the original explanation was it's a misfired, it's a mistargeted Iranian missile that hit the school, right? When they look at the angle, when they look at the actual characteristics where the wings are on the missile, it doesn't look like a Tomahawk. It does not look like a Tomahawk. Anyway, yeah. So that is an update on the school. I don't know if you saw the video of the Iranians women's soccer team who was playing, I think, in Australia. And when the Iranian national anthem was being played, they refused to sing along. They stayed quiet. As a consequence of that, the Iranian regime threatened them with arrest when they came back to Iran. As a consequence of that, 5 Iranian women's soccer players have defected. They had been labeled wartime traitors, and they defected in Australia. There was some worry that the Australians wouldn't give them political asylum, and I think the Trump administration came in and said, if you don't, we will. And ultimately, the Australians caved and they gave them asylum. So good for those girls. Their lives are probably going to be significantly better in Australia than going back to Iran. Okay. Quick update on Israel and Lebanon and Hezbollah. Again, Israel is increasing its occupation of territory in the south of Lebanon to try to create a security buffer zone in the north of Israel against the Hezbollah. They are also continuing to target Hezbollah assets all over Lebanon. They have been going the last few days, going after Hezbollah financial institutions, destroying their banking entities, pulling down, buildings with offices or any kind of association with Hezbollah. They've been knocking them down. there are over 1 million people in Lebanon now who are being evacuated. And it seems like Israel keeps expanding the evacuation zones and keeps demanding evacuation of further and further. I think there's another neighborhood now in Beirut that they've asked them to evacuate as they destroy building after building, base after base, armory and ammunition depot after ammunition depot. At the same time, the Lebanese army doesn't seem to be doing anything. There were rumors in the beginning that they might be confiscating some of the military equipment Hezbollah has, but I haven't heard anything about that. Lebanese military is still afraid of Hezbollah. And I think Lebanese politicians are still worried about a civil war. Even though the politicians are more brazen in terms of the statements they're making, and again, they've outlawed the military wing of Hezbollah. They have, they've talked about arresting the leader of Hezbollah, and they have talked about the military going after Hezbollah. Nothing has been done. And then earlier today, they even stories came out that they were talking to the Americans about arranging for meetings with the Israelis to establish peace between Lebanon and Israel, which would be amazing. But Hezbollah still needs to be dismantled. Israel's going to have to decide whether they're going to go all in and take out Hezbollah and completely dismantle it and destroy it, with or without the help of the Lebanese army, or whether they're going to cut another deal with Hezbollah. It did seem like Hezbollah was jockeying for another ceasefire where they could get some kind of deal with the Israelis to delay and postpone their demise. I guess to be determined. We will see what the Israeli government decides to do. We'll see whether Hezbollah decides to negotiate. As I've told you, I think yesterday, Israel has killed, all the leadership, the Iranian leadership in Lebanon. There was the bridge between Iran and Hezbollah. Given Iran's problems, they're not going to be very supportive of Hezbollah. The communication link has been cut. All the military headquarters of command and control in Iran are being decimated. All those headquarters in Beirut have been decimated. There's nobody to talk. But Hezbollah is still alive. It has thousands of troops. It has lots of weapons. It is not dead. It is not dead. It is just dramatically, significantly crippled and weakened. And then the question is, does Israel go for the ultimate death blow? That would probably require ground troops in significant parts of Lebanon. Could Israel use the Lebanese army? Would the Lebanese army agree? Hard to tell. Today, the president of Syria, himself a former ISIS member, if you remember, declared that he stood with the Lebanese president and is willing to help the Lebanese disarm Hezbollah. So one Islamist group disarming another Islamist group, that should be fun and interesting. But yeah, so we will see how this exactly evolves and what exactly happens. Basically, I think it's going to be down to what Israel is willing to commit in order to, completely finish off Hezbollah. They didn't finish off Hamas. They've never really finished off anybody. And whether they finish off Iran, I don't know. But let me make this point. I think Andrew Fox made it. I'll make it again as well. Even if, and Boaz made it earlier, even if they don't finish the Iranians off, even if they don't finish Hezbollah off, Israel is substantially safer today than it was on October 6th, before the October 7th, horrors. Israel has bought itself years, if not decades, of relative peace. Relative peace. Israel's still going to have to deal with whatever happens in Gaza. Israel's still going to have to deal with the West Bank. But in terms of Hezbollah being a threat, much, much smaller threat than it was on October 6th. I mean, 95% weaker than it was on October 6th. Iran, 95% weaker than it was on October 6th. So Israel is in a much, much better position today than it was just 2 years ago. what it would be sad is if it gets so close to, I think, and Andrew Fox did not agree with me, but I think decimating Hamas, this close to decimating Hezbollah, this close to regime change in Iran. And I think regime change in Iran is key to all of that. As I've said before, I think it's a blow to the entire Islamist movement in the whole world. But even if you don't achieve that, you're still going to be better off than you were originally. All right, that is our story from Iran. All right, let me just remind you that these shows are funded through contributions by you. Can't do this without you guys. Now, you've been incredibly generous over the weekend, so I appreciate that. But it can't just end. So we have to fund every show. We've got monthly goals. We've got yearly goals. We've got to keep the pace. So the goal is $250 an hour. We're way short of that for this hour that is about to end, and then we're going into second hour. So we're way short of all of that. So I'd appreciate if those of you out there, 190 people watching, did a sticker for any amount that support value for value. You value the show. This is why you're here. You value my analysis on Iran and everything else. I assume that's why you're here. Please consider showing your support, showing that beyond just watching, supporting the fact that the show exists and the fact that I keep, I'm broadcasting when I travel and pretty much every day during this war. And of course, you can ask questions. The beauty of questions is that you get to shape the show. I talk about what you want me to talk about. You can ask me questions about anything, war-related, unrelated, anything you want. You can ask. So, consider asking questions. I'm particularly looking for $20, $50 questions so we can get closer to our goal. It's going to be hard to get to a goal with $5 to $10 questions, but any questions is fine. But please consider asking questions, participating, creating content for the show, and supporting the show and supporting everything that I do. Couldn't do this without financial backing. Couldn't do this without you guys. It's completely listener supported. And that's how we fund this show. All right, let's see. Taxes. Yeah, so Washington State has no income tax. It has been a place that has seen the rise of Amazon, Microsoft, Starbucks. It has been a haven for entrepreneurs who have, built businesses around Amazon, around Microsoft. A lot of very wealthy people, a lot of wealth has been created in Washington State. And part of that is, I think, the no income tax. It just creates an advantage to being in Seattle versus being in Washington State vis-a-vis being in California or somewhere else. And the state has done very, very well off of it. But of course, the state has been run by Democrats. And the consequence of that, particularly Seattle, but the state overall has been run by Democrats. And a big part of that is there's a vast welfare state. They've got a lot of spending. They spend a lot of money. And just looking, that's that. I don't know what this is. Personal income. Yeah, so, and as a consequence of that, the states that have zero income tax have seen personal income rise significantly over the last 70 years. And this has been a huge benefit. Increases, they've grown at a much faster rate than states that have income taxes. So the rate of growth in income has gone up significantly. But as much income as the state of Washington generates from sales taxes and other taxes, it spends a lot. And it wants to expand the welfare state. The welfare state is never going to shrink. It's always expanding. There's always new people to subsidize. There's always new causes to fund. There's always new stuff to do that the government has to do, that is necessary, that altruism demands that you fund. Now, they don't want to impose an income tax, but they need more revenue. So who do they go after? Well, what they do is they go after the rich. So Democrats in the state of Washington are pushing for a 9.9% millionaire tax, which would then become one of the highest state taxes in the country. So you would be taxed above a certain amount. But this is a theme everywhere, right? I mean, everywhere around the world, welfare states are struggling to fund their deficits. The United States is going to have to face up to this at some point here because we're running massive deficits. We have a massive welfare state we're trying to fund, and we keep cutting taxes, and yet the revenue doesn't come in to fund all this. And I know Republicans are kind of praying that the AI revolution will create massive economic growth, and there'll be so much tax revenue from the economic growth that it'll cover all of Social Security and Medicare and everybody's needs, and there'll be no problem. But then you've got a war that's costing billions and billions and billions, and there's just, at some point, something has to give. We saw this in the Netherlands, that again has a massive welfare state and can't fund it, and so they come up with this wealth tax, a tax on unrealized capital gains. And of course, Democrats would love a tax on unrealized capital gains. That's basically what California is trying to do. California, there'll be a ballot initiative to tax wealth, including unrealized capital gains. So California is running a welfare deficit, and it needs more money to fund all the beautiful welfare stuff it wants. So it's going to tax rich people with a wealth tax, only billionaires. Washington State's won a millionaire tax. In the Netherlands, they're putting basically a wealth tax, and including unrealized gains. And of course, millionaires are going to leave the Netherlands. And you're seeing slowly, and I think this will increase. I think this will accelerate. The UK is struggling. Where they're going to find the revenues, and they put they put a tax on millionaires, and UK has lost huge numbers of millionaires over the last couple of years because of that. You're going to see more and more and more desperate welfare states trying to squeeze the wealthy for more and more taxes. The wealthy are going to try to escape, but the governments are going to try to chase them down. California is making their tax retroactive. We'll see if that's constitutional, but retroactive to the beginning of the year. So even if people leave during the year, they'll still be taxed, which in California means for a lot of these billionaires, billions of dollars of tax bills. Just disgusting and absurd. Okay, a couple of things about housing. Trump promised this bill that would basically make it illegal for private equity and big institutional investors to buy homes, because I guess that's the cause of home prices going up. It has nothing to do with home prices and rents going up. Nothing. Zero, literally nada, nothing, not an iota. But Trump wants to eliminate it, and there's a bill going through Congress to do that. But the bill is ridiculous, right? The bill is filled with exemptions and loopholes and subsidies. I mean, any way you look at it, this bill is the worst of all worlds. It's only going to increase federal control over housing. It's not going to do anything to lower the cost of housing. And it's going to create so many exemptions that the stuff that, for whatever reason, Democrats and Republicans don't like, like private equity buying homes, it's not going to go away. Not going to go away. The bill is called the Road to Housing Act. And it basically is going to increase federal involvement in state and local zoning decisions. It's going to, again, it's going to increase housing shortage. It's not going to do anything. And it's going to limit some people's ability, some institutional investors' ability to, but not much. Not much. Right? I mean, this is a quote from somebody from the AEI. The bill, quote, would turn what has been a legal and permissible activity, namely investment in 1 and 2 unit homes for renters, into a suspect activity, heavily regulated by the U.S. Treasury. It just doesn't make any sense. Remember that when investors buy homes, somebody lives in them. They rent them out. That's how they make money. And they can't charge above market rates. And the investors own so few homes in any region that have no monopoly power to raise rates. It's all just fantasy. Now, I'll tell you how to lower rates, how to lower rents. You want to lower rents? It's easy. Everybody knows how to do it. Oh, I wanted you to see this graph. Let me see if I can get you to see this graph. This is a cool graph. I don't want you to see that. Let's do it. All right. Oops. Cancel. Okay. All right, we'll get there. There you go. There's the graph, right? I'm blocking the peak there. You're going to have to believe me, there's a peak there, right? So you see the graph? That is rents in Austin, Texas as a percent of income. Rent in Austin, Texas as a percent of income, right? So basically it's a measure of how affordable rent is. And you can see that rent went way up in 2022. In the post-COVID era, when lots of people were moving to Austin and there wasn't enough supply. People hadn't built enough homes yet. It takes time to build homes. But everybody was moving to Austin, driving up rents. Demand, fixed supply, rents go up. It's straightforward supply and demand. But then what happened? Because there's not a lot of zoning and not a lot of restrictions in Austin, Texas, people went out and built a ton of, rental properties. And look at it. It's now cheaper to buy in Austin in 2026 than it was in 2005. Relative to income. Income's gone up and rent is just plummeted. How has that happened? It's happened because supply increased. It's happened because supply increased. Build, build, build. If you build houses, prices will go down. Now, the problem is that Trump doesn't want prices to come down. He said so. He said in his speech, he says, I don't want home prices to come down because a lot of people will lose the equity value that they built up in their homes. And those people vote. He wants somehow to houses to be more affordable for young people without older people suffering a depreciation in the value of their home. Yeah, good luck with achieving that. In Austin, they know how to do it. They just build. And part of this is that there was a real yes in my backyard attitude in Austin that took over City Hall, that influenced the zoning boards, and that got building. And the consequence of that is plummeting rents. And it's cool, economic theory works. It's cool to see it all in a graph. It's cool to see that line just go straight down. That is dramatic and very, very cool. Now, if you own, if you're a property owner in Austin and you're trying to make money, it's hard because rents have come down. And you probably built when rents were much higher, and you probably bought property when rents were much higher, and you assumed rents would be high. And yeah, it's a tough environment. If you bought a few years ago, or if you bought close to the peak, or even before the peak, rents are so low right now that but see, the market's self-correcting. What happens when rents are really, really low? Nobody builds any more houses, right? Can't make a profit. So rents will come up again. And they'll settle on some place where it's profitable enough to build, right? But where basically supply meets demand. And where, the current demand gets satisfied at a reasonable price. That's how it works. Builders get, owners of rental units get a reasonable return on their capital, and renters are happy to rent their properties. That's the equilibrium, and that's what you will get over time. All right, what are we doing? Housing. Okay, let me show you this clip of Tucker. And this one is whoops. This is a clip. Oh, let me move it. Looks like it moved. Center it like that. There we go. All right, I'll play it,
And what people like Levin, whom I'm not attacking, I feel sorry for because he's clearly living in hell. But what
he's not attacking Levin. Levin is clearly living in hell. This is Mark Levin, the commentator, who's pro-Trump, pro-war with Iran, pro-Israel, and therefore an enemy of Tucker, together with Ben Shapiro, but Levin in particular, enemy of Tucker. But so he's living in hell. Obviously.
People like Levin, whom I'm not attacking, I feel sorry for because he's clearly living in hell. But what they're trying to do is a species of witchcraft.
I can't help myself. It's a species of witchcraft. We're in witchcraft territory. You thought demons. You thought it was just about demons. But this is witchcraft. Mark Levin. I mean, these Jews, not only do they drink the blood of babies, but they engage in witchcraft, actual witchcraft. Well, Mark Levin has sold out by supporting Trump and supporting all the nonsense Trump does, but he hasn't sold out when it comes to foreign policy. And he's, I don't know what his position is on tariffs, but at least he hasn't sold out on foreign policy.
And it's really simple. You repeat something until it becomes true.
You repeat something until it becomes true. So repeating a lie makes it a reality.
You speak, you create truth by speaking. In the beginning was the word, right?
You create truth by speaking. Think about how mystical that is. Think about how mystical that is. You create truth by speaking. I mean, it's also Dugin. There is no one truth. There's my truth, your truth, everybody's truth.
There's a holy power, there's a supernatural power in words. Just
supernatural power in words. Just let that all sink in. This is the new voodoo punditry. This is the witchcraft demon stuff. This is and there's Megyn Kelly. Supposedly normal Megyn Kelly nodding along. Yep, witchcraft. Supernatural power in words.
Describing things is different from simply doing them. And if you can talk reality into being.
You can talk reality into being. Have you tried that? I keep trying that. It never works for me. I don't know. Maybe God's just not on my side. Isn't this like praying, which is talking reality into being, or begging reality into being, or praying reality into being? I mean, this is the epistemology of religion. This is mystical epistemology. This is what dominates these freaks, these weirdos. This is Tucker Carlson is really channeling, I think, the true spirit of so many in MAGA and in kind of the religious conservative world. It's quite something to behold.
This is what an incantation is. It's what a spell is. It's not like spooky, like crazy stuff. It's the lived reality of every person.
It's the lived reality of every person is spells and inculcations and saying stuff makes it something in reality. I mean, he's reading Evola. He's reading all these right-wing mystics of the past who are not Christian, but this is Dugin. This is the BS that Bannon has been marketing and bringing into the right in America. This is serious stuff. It's completely wacko. And why anybody listens to this guy, and I'll say this again, why anybody watches this guy, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, it tells you something about the state of the culture that they're watching this.
Say it and it becomes true. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Shills like Pompeo are getting paid from who knows how many different groups.
Yeah, Pompeo's getting paid, but Tucker Carlson's not. No, he never got money from Kuwait. From Qatar doesn't. No.
To lie to you and coming across as some sort of moral voice or poor Mike Huckabee guys like that who are just under some spell. Let's just be honest about what this is. It's not about Iran's weapons. It's about Israel's ambitions. But there's something deeper. There's like almost a spell. I mean, Huckabee.
It's a spell. It's witchcraft, guys. You didn't know this, but this is deep political analysis. Everybody's under a spell. Everybody who disagrees with Tucker Carlson, I don't even want to think about the kind of spell has been placed on me. But anybody who disagrees with Tucker Carlson, anybody who happens to be, I don't know, pro-Israel, for example, is under a spell.
Huckabee, for example.
There's no other explanation.
Really think Huckabee is being threatened? I know Huckabee well. I'm sure you do too. Yeah. Nice man. Like, what is this? And I look at him and I see a man under a spell. I mean,
that's the thing about Tucker Carlson. He's talking like he's normal. He's getting these ideas, and I like Huckabee, and I've spent time with Huckabee, and Huckabee, a friend, and he knows all these people, and it's like he's a normal human being. We're just having a conversation, and the things coming out of his mouth are so nutty and absurd. You'd expect froth to come out of his mouth and his eyes, but he's so good at what he does. He says it just like 10 years ago, just like 15 years ago, just commentary, just straight up, without the wacky laugh and the craziness that sometimes he brings to it. He comes across as a sane human being, saying completely insane things.
I mean this, and I'll be mocked for it, but I mean it. There's no practical, conventional explanation for some of this behavior. I mean, I look at Ted Cruz and I'm like, I think I know what's going on. Lindsey Graham, I think I know what's going on. But Mike Huckabee, I think he is under a spell. He
said this 3 times now. Huckabee is under a spell. He really believes this. There is some power in the universe that, of course, Tucker can't explain. Tucker can't explain because he can't explain what's going on. And that power has put a spell on Huckabee. And it's a Jewish power because Huckabee's pro-Israel, so it's a Jewish power that's manipulating the universe right now and put us,
he is not thinking clearly at all. And so when Mike Huckabee says, and I think Mike Huckabee likes America or did, but when he stands up and says, God will destroy our country if we don't support Bibi, it's like, how could someone ever say something like that? And I don't know the answer, but I think it's more metaphysical than political.
So he thinks it's more metaphysical than political. In other words, it's mystical. Metaphysical. These people, when they talk about metaphysics, it's not existence exists, A is A. It's mystical stuff. It's spiritual, mystical stuff. That's metaphysics for them. This is Tucker Carlson. This is Tucker Carlson of 2026. This is the guy who is completely gone, right? This guy says, Yaron Brook needs to read The Secret. That will change his mind. Conor McGregor, Oprah, and Will Smith can't be all wrong. Now, I assume he's being funny because it is pretty funny. Yes, how could Conor McGregor, Oprah, and Will Smith be all wrong? That would be bizarre if they were all wrong. I must be wrong. Anyway, this is mystical nonsense. This is a state of American epistemology, if you will. This is a state of American culture that this guy has a platform, any platform, that anybody listens to him. It's a spooky world. It's a spooky world with lots of spells and lots of spells going on and lots of forces, metaphysical forces, imposing their will on poor us humans as we go about life. I mean, God, how do I even know that what I'm doing is not a product of a spell? One of you, I don't know, maybe Scott. That's it. It must be Scott. You remember Scott? Scott, who probably is on here by a different name, but you remember Scott? Maybe Scott has put a spell on me. That's why I don't see the truth. That's why I don't see Tucker's truth. All right. Bizarre, strange, hard to tell what exactly happened to Tucker again. 15 years ago, he was kind of a small, little libertarian type, pro-free markets, and fairly sane and very knowledgeable, and wore a bow tie. Bow tie's gone, and so is his mind. It all went up in smoke together, I guess. No bow tie, no mind. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. All right, guys, that is the news for Monday, March 9th. We will keep an eye out on what happens with the war and where we are in the days to come. There'll definitely be a show tomorrow and a show on Wednesday. We'll see after that because I'm traveling. But I will keep you updated about the war in Iran and about other stories as they occur, although, of course, the war dominates the news right now. Yeah, I want to remind you that this show cannot exist, would not exist, will not exist without the support from you, the listeners and the watchers of this show, whether it's live, whether it's after the fact, one way or the other, can't do the show without you. So thank you to everybody who supports the show. There are hundreds of you, many hundreds of you that support the show. So thank you to all of you. The best way, from my perspective, to support the show is through a monthly contribution. You can do that on Patreon, patreon.com. Be a trader. You get value. You're listening to the show. All of you who are not live, you're listening to the show. Be a trader by supporting the show on Patreon. You can do anything from $2 to $1,000. $10 buys you a podcast with no ads, a podcast stream with no ads. $25 gets you on the panel video for the AMAs. $250 gets you a one-on-one with me once a quarter. And $500 gets you a one-on-one with me every month. And there are more perks. You can check it out on Patreon and on PayPal. PayPal, you can also become a monthly supporter on PayPal as well. So please consider doing that. You get shows like earlier today, the interview with Andrew Fox, and which I hope you enjoyed. Let me know. And, and of course, my regular news updates and more philosophical content. Let's see. We have sponsors for the show. Hendershot Wealth, hendershotwealth.com/YBS, Hendershot with 2 T's. They have a product that will reduce your capital gains taxes significantly if you have large capital gains, if you have a big portfolio of NVIDIA stock that you got as an employee way back when the stock was worth almost nothing and has made 14,000% or whatever it has gone up all this time, but you'd like to sell it at some point, you're going to pay 30% if you live in California to the government. But Hendershot has a product that can reduce that capital gains tax significantly, almost to zero. So check him out, hendershotwealth.com/YBS. Also, the interview I did with Robert, which is on the video. The interview is in a video on my playlists under sponsors, Robert Hendershot interview. And then the Iron Man Institute is hosting a conference in Porto, Portugal. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great city. Talfani will be there. I'll be there. Onkar will be there. A lot of time to socialize as well and hang out. Please consider coming. And lots of good flights into Porto from all over Europe. If you're in the UK, you should come over. If you're anywhere in Europe, I know a lot of listeners to my show in Germany, Sweden, Norway, Netherlands. You guys should all come over to Porto and hang out with us. It will be a lot of fun. So check it out, aynrand.org/start-here, aynrand.org/start-here for information. There was a discount coupon, 26YBS10. 26YBS10. All right, let's jump in with questions. Let's start with Michael, $50. Thank you, Michael. Iraq and Afghanistan were diversions, a way to be doing something without actually addressing the source of the problem. That's how you get a forever war. Poke at the problem, but always refrain from resolving it, until now. Well, yeah, but notice that nobody frames it that way. Really, nobody frames it that way. Nobody frames this as this is a war with Islamism, with jihadism. The fountainhead of that enemy is Iran, and therefore we need regime change so we can get rid of the fountainhead of the Islamist cause, which has been killing Americans for 40-something years and is dedicated to killing more Americans in the future. Nobody mentions Islam when they talk about Iran. They talk about nukes, and they talk about missiles, and they talk about tactics, and they talk about, hate and all this stuff, but they don't mention Islam. This is about Islamism. This is about the root of the problem, the root cause. But the root cause is not a regime. The root cause is an ideology. And to really solve the problem of Islamism, regime change has to happen, but it has to be regime change towards a secular government. Anything short of a secular government in Iran is not a permanent, long-term solution to the challenge of Islamism. Right? So I agree with you that Iraq and Afghanistan were not what should have been done. Iran was always the target. But the problem with Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran is nobody will identify the actual source of the issue. Radical Islam, fundamentalist Islam, Islamofascist, Islamic totalitarianism, however you want to categorize it, however you want to identify it. Jihadism, maybe. That's the enemy. That's what must be destroyed. That is what going to war with Iran is for. And yet that is being ignored completely. And this is why, in my view, the mullahs, the ayatollahs, the teachers, the scholars, these are legit targets. These are the enemy. That's why Qom, the spiritual heartland of the Iranian regime, that's where you need this is why I was so excited. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this way when they bombed the building of the committee of experts, which are all these religious figures. That's the enemy. That's who needs to be taken out. Thank you, Michael. Not your average algorithm. Why didn't Hitler attend the Wannsee Conference or visit a concentration camp? It seems he didn't want to get his hands dirty with the final solution. Has there ever been an evil regime as organized as Nazis? Most are pathetic like Iran. I mean, the Nazis were pretty pathetic, so certain ways organized, but also, I mean, think about badly they lost. Think about how badly they lost. So you have to say the Nazi regime was pretty pathetic as well. Yeah, I mean, Hitler wanted to delegate. He wasn't a doer. He didn't go to the battlefield. He didn't command troops in the field. And he didn't go to concentration camps. He had no reason to. He delegated all the responsibilities for doing that. He knew people would follow his orders. He knew they would do it the way he wanted to do it. He clearly communicated to them what needed to be done, and then he left it to them. And they were industrial. There's never been a society that is engaged in mass murder on an industrial scale and in industrial methodology. I mean, Mao and Stalin might have killed more people than Hitler, but they mainly killed them, through bad policies that's caused the starvation, maybe on purpose, maybe not. They killed them by sending them to the various gulags. They killed them in various locations, various places. The Nazis built an industrial machinery, a system for the eradication of a whole people. I mean, the evil, that is unique, that is different. People were just gassed and then their bodies were burnt in large numbers, incredibly efficiently, 24/7 for years. And if the war continued, they would have achieved their goal of basically wiping out the Jews of Europe, and many, many other people as well, but mainly the Jews of Europe. But they were efficient, organized, industrialized in that. And yet, they were pathetic when it came to actually building weapons of war and actually winning a war and doing strategy. All right. Let's see. Doug, Trump announced a ban on trade relations with Spain. Is this just a response? Is this a just response to Spain? No, it's not. And again, it hurts Americans. Like, we don't get to buy Spanish olive oil and Spanish wine, and we get hurt. So no, it's absolutely not a just response. But by the way, it never went into effect. Spain capitulated ultimately. They allowed the U.S. to use bases there. But no, Spain is under no obligation to let the United States use bases there. And it's stupid for the United States to penalize them for doing so. It's not like it was necessary for the war. But, it worked in the sense that Spain capitulated. But no, I wouldn't penalize Americans and Spaniards for the stupidity and the pacifism of the Spanish government. The Spanish government is bad, really, really bad. It's a socialist government, but that's Spain's problem, not America's. Doug, will you give a biography of the late Supreme Leader? Iran's history lessons are gold. I mean, a biography of the late Supreme Leader, I don't think it's that interesting. I'd have to do a bunch of research. But we could. I just don't know how interesting it is. I don't know how interesting of a leader he was. Khomeini, the original Ayatollah Khomeini, who did the Iranian Revolution, much more interesting character, a real leader, in a sense, an intellectual who really manipulated everything in order to create the Iranian Revolution. So that would be much more interesting. So I guess Daniel is asking, can you do a show on the history of the Iranian Revolution? Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. I'll do that. I think the history of the Iranian Revolution is actually quite interesting. And Ayatollah Khomeini's life is, Khomeini is not Khamenei, Khomeini is really interesting. Doug, if the Allies take your advice and carpet bang the Iranian coast, what would it look like to open the strait? 20-mile width? I don't know. I am not familiar enough with the military technology that the Iranians have. It could be that just taking out the radars are enough. It could be that you have to demilitarize a swath. Maybe it's 20 miles, maybe it's 5 miles. I don't know. It depends on the range of the handheld. It depends on how they are sighted, whether they need radar, what kind of communications they would need. And I would need a lot more information, intelligence information about the weapon systems, how they work, how they function. So I'm just giving general advice, not specific, because I don't know specific. You can't give specific advice without knowing a lot more about the weapon systems involved. Clearly, to really take out large numbers of ships, you would need radar, and I think the U.S. and Israel could easily take out the radars all along the coast. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know how much would need to be done. Shazbot. Have the Democrats ever wondered why their welfare programs haven't eliminated poverty? Do you expect poverty to disappear eventually, or do you consider it just the way the universe works? I mean, look, poverty is down, and the Democrats would argue that it's down because of the welfare state. Like, since the war on poverty was engaged in, poverty's down. Now, it was going down before, so the rate of decrease in poverty is lowered. In absolute poverty is way down in the United States, and again, arguably because of the welfare state. Nobody goes hungry because of food stamps. You've got everything covered, and old people get Social Security and Medicare. So, I mean, the problem with the welfare state is not that it doesn't eliminate poverty. In many regards, it does. The problem with the welfare state is that it causes mediocrity. It crushes ambition. And of course, it's redistribution of wealth. It's stealing. But the consequence of that is lower economic growth, less ambition, and less poor becoming wealthy. They just settle on an acceptable level of poverty. Now, would poverty go away completely? Absolutely, poverty would go away completely. Now, not completely. There'd always be the drug addicts, the mentally retarded, mentally ill, the people who reject civilization, life, whatever, and as a consequence are now relegated, the homeless, kind of the homeless people you see. Those people would probably always exist. But beyond that, yes, poverty would be eradicated because jobs would pay so much. Wealth would be so high because productivity would increase so high. It wouldn't take much in the United States to eradicate poverty if we allowed the economy to grow. Let's say the economy grew at 5-6%. It wouldn't take a long time for poverty to be eradicated. Certainly within a generation or two, there'd be nobody in absolute poverty and, relative poverty. There'd always be some people who have less than others. But, I mean, even today, the poor in America, what does it actually mean when you have a car and an air conditioning and a refrigerator? What does poverty actually mean? So in terms of absolute poverty, with the exception of the homeless people, there's no absolute poverty in the U.S. And if you had laissez-faire capitalism, poverty would just go away by any measure, by any reasonable measure of what that means. Now, Chavez algorithm, if you're depressed, you've just given up on life. Whereas if you're nihilistic, you've given up on your own life and want to destroy other people's lives. Does one go from A to B? I don't think so. I don't think depression leads people to nihilism. I think it's an anti-values mentality. And a lot of the nihilists are not necessarily depressed. They're not happy, but they're not necessarily depressed. So I think these are unique categories. And depression can be caused by a lot of different things. Things could have happened in your life that make you really down on your own life, but not all depression is giving up on life. And of course, depression is reversible. And sometimes depression is reversible with drugs, which means there's a chemical component to depression. Nihilism is an ideology, and it's the relishing of destruction. It's the relishing of pulling everybody around you down. Richard, when the government taxed billionaires, I didn't speak up because I was not a billionaire. When they came after the millionaires, well, you know where this goes. Fair warning. Well, of course. And of course, we all get taxed. The famous story is when the income tax was first introduced, the government promised that it would only apply to the very, very richest 7%. And it was at a very low rate, under 10%, if I remember right. Only 7% of Americans paid for it. And that lasted a year and a half. And within 3-4 years, the marginal tax rate was up to 80%, and almost everybody paid taxes. So it's always the way it starts. Adam G. Would Trump's plan to limit companies from buying single-family homes temporarily and slightly drop prices due to less total demand, even if the long-term effects are more harmful? God, but it's such a... I don't think so, because, I mean, it might in certain places around the country, but the quantity that we're talking about, the amount... the number of homes being bought by corporations is so small, it just doesn't register. It wouldn't change anything significantly. At least that's my understanding. So, yeah, but again, with very bad long-term consequences. Jennifer, I participated in a paid double-blind COVID vaccine study this afternoon. Here is some of the money for the show. Keep up the great work. Oh, they paid you. Cool. All right. Which vaccine did you get? I'm curious what vaccine you got. Oh, not. You might have got the placebo. We don't know. Now the question is, will they expose you? The conspiracy is now they'll expose you to the virus. Well, actually, it's too late because you've already got the chip. The virus came with the chip in the brain. So now you're just being controlled. And you're under the spell of the vaccine makers. If you got the vaccine, I hope you don't feel sick in the next day or so, because I got the vaccine really hit me hard when I got it. Adam says, God could clear up this whole religious conflict very quickly if he wanted to. He could, I know. He just has to reveal himself and tell us what's true and what's not. At least some locusts, frogs, and or floods could speak volumes. Yes. And maybe he could relieve us of some of these spells and demons. I wonder what his reason is for silence. A shame, so much death over BS. I mean, the religious stuff in the Middle East, the religious stuff in Tucker Carlson's head, and all the people who watch Tucker Carlson. I mean, God could save us a lot of, could really help out. Wouldn't be that difficult. Just reveal himself, and as you say, a little bit of locus. All right. I like numbers. Were there ever any kind of power plays of people who wanted Peikoff to pick them versus you for their own political, personal intrigues, etc. rationales? Pick them over me for what? What was he picking? Did he pick me? Was I picked? I don't know. I don't like. Please don't ask me questions like this. The politics of insider objectivism. Not interested, and not interested in really commenting on it. If I will never write a memoir, but if I wrote a memoir, I'd tell all the stories. But I'm not going to. So you'll never know the stories. Maybe when I'm really old and doing the show, and I can't remember that I said I wouldn't talk about it. You can ask me again, and maybe I'll spill the beans there. The thing is to get me when I'm really old and can't control myself from speaking. I like numbers says it was when you brought up the Supreme Leader's political intrigues. Yeah, well, I was never Supreme Leader. God, things would be different if I was Supreme Leader. I was never Supreme Leader of Objectivism. I tried to get the title. Nobody was willing to give me the title of Supreme Leader of Objectivism. I mean, Peikoff, I think, at some point suggested I might be the CEO of Objectivism, and I remember people were very upset. Objectivism didn't have a CEO, But Supreme Leader would have been cool. I would have liked that title, Supreme Leader of Objectivism. Maybe we could still go for it. You think it could still become? No. I mean, no. No. There's always jockeying, but there's always stuff going on, but nothing like that. Clark, are the U.S. and Israel not being dominant enough? The regime has not yet fallen, and the Iranian people are not rising up. All that is true. Yeah, but it takes time. If you're going to do it from the air, and you're not carpet bombing, you're being selective. You're bombing selectively. You're not just using B-52s to carpet bomb everything. Then yeah, it's going to take time. There's just no way to not take time. Getting the effect that you want to get. So it needs a few more weeks if it's going to be successful. James says, how would you describe rabid anti-Semitism and anti-capitalism on the right other than Nazism? Well, anti-Semitism and anti-capitalism. Doesn't have to be Nazism, right? Nazism is a particular ideology that relates to a particular theory around the Aryan race, not even whites, but the Aryan race. I don't think everybody on the right is necessarily a Nazi. I mean, these people on the right are necessarily Nazis. For example, the Nazis were not as Christian in their theology as many, they were somewhat Christian, but different than many of these people now, many of the people on the right in America. So not everything fits neatly into the categories that we're familiar with. Maybe this new thing will be some new theory. Very similar to Nazism in its collectivism, in its anti-Semitism, it's in anti-capitalism. Every collectivistic theory is going to be anti-capitalism. So it could be similar to Nazism without being Nazism itself. All right, monetary vote for shows like you had with Adam Fox this morning. I enjoyed clear-speaking subject matter experts. All right, I mean, we've done that with economists. Try to broaden it outside economics. Yep. Liam says, what does Tucker Carlson gain from mainstreaming anti-Semitism? He's already rich. What does he need Qatar's money for? Well, people who are rich often want to be richer. I don't know how rich he is and how much richer he wants to become. He wants power. He wants to be able to control people. He also might believe it. He might believe it on top of everything else. His mind might have been fried already. I wouldn't be surprised. Gail says, I love your sarcastic chuckle, Yaron. Me? Sarcastic? Never. Never happened. And chuckling? I don't chuckle. I don't do the chuckle. All right, James, was the Supreme Court's ruling against tariffs weak and not principled enough to stop Trump and his derangement? No, I thought it was quite good. I don't think it was weak at all. But it was one ruling over one case, over one law. That is not going to stop Trump and his derangement. No. But the Supreme Court cannot stop Trump. Only Congress and the voters can stop Trump. The Supreme Court can't do it. They can stop on one law, one issue at a time. They can stop it. But that's it. One law, one issue at a time. They can't stop the rest of him. They can't stop everything else he does. That Congress can do, or the voters can do. Congress could impeach him, kick him out of office, or just pass laws with veto-proof majorities that limit his powers. James, is the Charlie Kirk assassination significant because it's the first time an intellectual has been shot for his ideas rather than a political leader? No, I don't think it's the first time. I mean, would you consider Martin Luther King an intellectual or political leader? Somewhere in between? No, I think it was the first time in a long time that we've seen that kind of assassination. Somebody shot for his ideas, who had a big following, who was politically significant. And I just don't think we've had that experience in America in a long, long time. I don't think it's anything more than that. And yeah, so I don't think it has much significance, except, yeah, he was a popular guy, young, charismatic, shot in the middle of giving a talk, or doing a Q&A. I mean, that was horrible. But Martin Luther King was not a politician. And then probably others. I mean, Salman Rushdie was attacked and stabbed, wasn't actually killed. People didn't make that big of a deal of that. They should have. They should have. It's a travesty they didn't. And that's Iran. That's Iran's fault. Left could ever hope to be. Well, I mean, the far left is pretty bad. Really, really, really pretty bad. In different ways, more intellectual ways. You don't want either one to gain power. I think the right is worse only because I think the right is more likely to attain power over the long run than the left. But they're still both horrifically evil. It's like saying Nazism is 100 times worse than communism. Is it? It's about the same. But what's more likely in America, fascism or communism? I think fascism. No, like that graph of the market regulating itself and the video of those two gremlins sharing their mystical epistemology is enlightening. Thank you. Yes, it's enlightening to see the mystics. I like the way you said it. Two gremlins sharing their mystical epistemology. Yep. All right, monotropic, last question. Would regime change in Iran require physically disposing of most members of the IRGC? Well, I don't know if most members, I don't know if you have to go after all the troops, but certainly the entire leadership or most of the leadership would have to go one way or the other. And the question is, who can do that? I mean, Israel can take out a lot of them, but they can't take them out in every town, in every village, they're all over the place. And at some point, the people are going to have to rise up and get rid of them. And that not one town, not one city has done it yet says something. Says something. Right. All right. But yeah, a lot of IRGC are going to have to die for that to matter. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks to all the super chatters. Really, really appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow with more news and more updates and more analysis. And what else? I think that's it. See you all tomorrow. Have a great night and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.